Okay, it's now time to preview round 8 of the 2025 NRL season. Now, this preview is going to be slightly different. I'm going to put the team's overall points and league position in the preview, which I haven't done previously. And it's starting to become quite interesting to see where teams are starting to settle down league-wise in the NRL ladder. Some teams have really started to settle into certain portions of the NRL ladder. Some teams have slipped down the ladder, other teams are starting to climb the ladder, so I thought I would put that in. Now, the first match of the weekend is the Broncos versus the Bulldogs. The Broncos currently have 8 points. They're 5th overall on the NRL ladder. The Bulldogs, obviously unbeaten, 14 points and currently 1st on the NRL ladder. Broncos coming off a Golden Point loss away against the Warriors. The Bulldogs coming off yet another win. They are unbeaten to start the season. A smashing win against the Bunnies. This is up at Suncorp. It's an interesting matchup because the Broncos have wobbled in recent weeks, whereas the Bulldogs are just gaining further and further momentum. At some point, the Bulldogs will lose a game, but I can't see that happening this coming match in round 8. I can see the Bulldogs winning away from home. I think this will be a proper litmus test for the Bulldogs to see where they're actually at as a premiership contender, considering that the Broncos before the season started were considered one of the premiership contenders, but the Bulldogs have defied expectations and have proven this season so far that last season was not a one-off. This side are building. So that's going to be a fun matchup. The Roosters-Dragons. The Roosters currently have 4 points. They're 16th. The Dragons have 8 points and are 7th. The Dragons are performing a little bit better than what people expected. They're still a little bit inconsistent, but they're starting to build some momentum now. The Roosters, I had concerns about the Roosters going into the season that they would drop off. That really bad defeat to the Panthers and that second half performance against the Panthers, the Roosters are in trouble. The Roosters are in serious trouble. And with the Eels having the bye this weekend, the Roosters could finish the end of the weekend bottom of the NRL ladder if they're not careful. However, the Roosters have proven that they can, upset favoured teams and pull out upsets, whereas the Dragons started with that win against the Melbourne Storm, which has started this momentum that they've now built over the last few weeks, where they're looking pretty good. So I do fear for the Roosters, but the Dragons are inconsistent. However, they are improving. The Dragons are inconsistent, but we shall see. That this could be a high-scoring game. Both sides have had their defensive struggles so far this season. The Warriors currently sit with 10 points. They're 4th overall. The Knights 6 points and 14th. The Warriors a really gutsy Golden Point win over the Broncos. The Knights yet another disappointing attacking display. The Knights are just really struggling at the moment. They win the first 2 matches to start the season, and now they've gone on this long losing streak, and their season's fast unravelling. Adam O'Brien is a coach under significant pressure going into this game. The Warriors, I think they've got to be a little bit more consistent, but they're currently 4th on the NRL ladder. And to me, I think last season was a bit of a down year because of injuries to key players. This season, Metcalf and Harris Tavita, for example, that halves partnership with Tamari Martin, sort of as a utility role, I think is working really well. And the fact that they're backing these young halves, I think is good. And as long as Metcalf can stay fit, I think they can have a very, very good season, and their home form is starting to look scary. They're starting to really use Mount Smart as a fortress. The Knights, I have some real concerns about the Knights going into this game. They are struggling in attack and defensively. While they're not conceding many points at the weekend, they did, and so defensively they were really exposed last weekend. The Storm have 10 points, currently sit 2nd. The Rabbitohs 8 points and 8th. The Storm, they were humbled against the Dolphins, and Harry Grant being out injured I think is a big loss. They have some issues in the outside backs as well with injuries. The Bunnies, has steam run out with the Bunnies season a little bit. They need a bye. The Rabbitohs need to get through to their first bye. They are having some injury issues as well. These are 2 sides impacted by injuries coming off the back of really disappointing defeats the weekend. Normally the Storm, when they have a heavy defeat, they come back and bash the opposition. I do fear for the Bunnies in this game. The Storm are at home. The Storm are going to be frustrated with how they played against the Dolphins. The Bunnies, they weren't great against the Bulldogs. They were nullified quite effectively and conceded a lot of points. Both sides, as I say, coming off the back of bad defeats, but the Bunnies, they're starting to slip down the ladder. It's starting to become a downward trajectory now in recent weeks. They've started to pick up some losses and they are searching for answers. They've got injuries. They're experimenting with the halves combination and the back lines because of injury. They've also now got injuries in the forward pack. So it's going to be interesting. Both sides are missing key players, but I do think the Storm, with the head-to-head record as well, and with Craig Bellamy's record against Wayne Bennett, I think the Storm are favourites and could potentially give out a hammering to the Bunnies here. The Cowboys coming off the bye, they've got 8 points and they're 9th overall with their for and against. Against the Titans, who've got 6 points and are 13th. The Cowboys have started to build some momentum. I think they didn't want the bye round. However, with the way they've been playing leading into the bye, if they can carry on that momentum, I think the Cowboys at home will be a little bit too much for the Titans, whose season is sort of stalled a little bit. The Titans also have some injuries in key positions, and is AJ Brimson really a half? Is he more a centre, a utility, a fullback, a winger even? And so the Titans season sort of stalled. The Cowboys, I think it's going to be interesting how they come off the bye, because they were building some momentum week on week. They'd strung some wins together, but I think the Cowboys are favourites for this game against the Titans. They're on the upwards trajectory. The Titans are sort of treading water at the moment, and their season is at risk of falling apart as well. The Panthers, they've now got 4 points. They sit 15th against the Seagulls with 6 points, who sit 11th. The Panthers, that was a statement win against the Roosters. They really turned it on, especially in the second half. It looked like the Panthers of old. The Panthers, however, have given up a lot of ground to the teams in front of them. However, the Sea Eagles are nosediving at the moment, and they've been nosediving since Cherry Evans came out and said he was leaving the club. Plus, Tommy Turbo Travojevic is out injured for the foreseeable future. The Panthers, if they can continue with how they played in that second half, and they're at home, I mean, admittedly at Bankwest, but they are at home. They'll have a home crowd advantage in a sense, and the Sea Eagles are looking vulnerable because they are starting to slip down the ladder. The Sea Eagles, however, when they can get their attack to click, look dangerous, but the injuries and suspensions are starting to pile up. The Cherry Evans contract saga, while that news cycle has sort of quietened down because of the West Tigers, I think that has derailed their season somewhat as well behind the scenes. The Panthers, they need to start picking up wins. They got that must-win against the Roosters, where they had to win that game, and they were looking dangerous. When they attacked, their confidence came back, and suddenly the combinations started to click, whereas in the previous weeks they were looking a little bit stop-start, a little bit uncertain. They figured it out. And the Sea Eagles are just not showing enough at the moment for me to go that the Panthers aren't favourites. The Panthers, if they can now build some momentum off the back of that win, I think the Sea Eagles could be in trouble. The Sea Eagles do have some good players. They have some good attacking options, but they're looking a little bit lost at the moment. In recent weeks, their form has deserted them. The Raiders-Dolphins is going to be a fun matchup because both sides coming off really good wins at the weekend. The Dolphins with that win against the Storm. Both sides have now figured out their attack. Their things are starting to click for both teams. The Raiders have had a really good start to the season. They're sitting third with 10 points. The Dolphins now sitting with 6 points and 10th. But because their attack is starting to click, it's going to be an interesting matchup. This really is going to be fun to look at. This could be a golden point game. This could be a high-scoring game. Both sides are looking fitter than they did last year as well. Both sides have really done the work in the off-season. The Dolphins were a little bit slow to start the season. The Raiders are playing much better than people predicted. People predicted the Raiders to be one of the worst teams in the league because of their youth and inexperience for the most part. But they're using that youth and that inexperience and that lack of fear to win games. The Dolphins, I mean, they were under pressure to start the season. Tristan Wolf was under pressure to start the season, and now they've got 3 good wins in a row. They're building some momentum. This is going to be a fun clash and will be a good litmus test for where both sides are at this point in the season. I think, in my opinion, I think this is going to be a really good test to see where both sides sit with the momentum and how they're playing, because it is still a very close ladder. The only team that's really got separation is the Bulldogs, who've started to pull away from everyone else with their recent form, and the Storm dropping points, and the Warriors dropping points, and the Raiders dropping points with those a couple of defeats, with the Bulldogs remaining unbeaten. they've got that bit of separation, and you've got 3 teams on 10 points scrabbling basically for second place. The Raiders are one of those teams on 10 points. Now we get to the Tigers Sharks. The Lockie Galvin situation, I think, has the potential to derail their season. And they're coming off the back of a disappointing defeat to the Eels, where they were the home team with more home tickets at Bankwest. The Sharks are still not fully 100% consistent, but they're starting to build some momentum. Their attack is starting to click. A lot does hinge on Hines and how he works in the halves with his halves partners and in that spine. Does it work with Atkinson better, for example, partnering Nico Hines? Just how the Sharks are performing. They're a little bit inconsistent within games and from game to game, but they're picking up enough points and their position. I think they're starting to build something a little bit. There's still room for improvement. The Tigers, their season could derail itself. The Tigers have proven that when their attack does click and when the team is playing with confidence and joy, you can see that they are a happier group until last week. Until this last week with the Lachlan Galvin situation, they were looking a very happy, settled group, and then the contract negotiations and his statements made against Benji Marshall and the club and his leaving. It's been a messy week, and it has the potential to derail the Tigers. So the Tigers have 6 points, they sit 12th. The Sharks have 8 points and sit 6th. The for and against is the reason why they are where they are. It's going to be an interesting one. It really is. We'll have to see how the Tigers respond now. To that defeat to the Eels and also to the Lockie Galvin situation, how they deal with that. Do they give him immediate release? Do they find him another club to go to? Get a player swap, for example? That's going to be interesting. The Sharks, I think the Sharks are building for something. Their defence is definitely improved. Players like Sam Stonestreet, for example, have been a revelation, but they're still a little bit clunky at times, and there's still room for improvement, which is, I think, dangerous with the Sharks. With room for improvement, they are a top 4, top 5 side, and I do think that they will have a little bit too much for the Tigers, considering all the negative headlines surrounding the Tigers in recent days. And of course, the Parramatta Eels have the bye. So there we go. That's a round 8 preview. I thought I'd change it up a little bit by putting in the points totals the teams have and their league position right now. I just thought I'd put that little change in there just to give some extra context of where teams are currently sitting and how they're trending. But there we go. There's the round 8 preview in the books. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts in the comments section below, and I will have some more NRL and other related content for you all, in fact sports content in general for you all, very, very soon.